Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the next episode in our series of the quintessential bulletproof practice owner's manual for success. Hopefully, you appreciated the previous episode, took lots of notes, did some homework. Now get ready to do some more work on your business. Get out pad and paper, and let's go. Hello, and welcome back to the, like Adam said, freaking best podcast in the world. Nathan Shields here with my partner, Adam Robin. How are you doing?
Fired up, happy, just excited, man. I'm excited about what we're doing. Also hot because it's really hot out here in South Mississippi. It's triple digits today, man.
Oh, geez.
Triple digits.
With the humidity, that doesn't help. And I'm in Alaska where it's like 75 degrees.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
This is why people.
We are smack in the middle of it. So I'm inside today. So yeah,
cool.
Excited to be here.
Hey, we are halfway through our private practice manual series to create a successful private practice. And up to this point, I think there's been some really cool stuff that we've talked about and shared with people. Of course, we didn't cover every single detail and all the minutiae regarding a private practice, but what we've done thus far, I think would be huge if people took the time. And I think I talked about this either in the first or second podcast, to like not try to consume and implement everything all at once, but don't feel like you have to implement everything from each podcast, but just take one thing and maybe don't move on to the next thing until you've completed that one thing, right? Because we're releasing these weekly. People might be listening to them weekly. They might start feeling overwhelmed. And so I just want to preface this by saying this is a journey. You don't have to do everything so quickly, but consume it. More importantly, implement along the way before you move on to the next thing. Would you add anything to that?
No, I think I listened to you and Will Humphreys talk on Will's new podcast. If you guys haven't checked it out, check out the Willpower podcast. Shout out Will.
Yeah.
And he said, inch by inch, it's a cinch. Yard by yard, it's hard. So I'm going to steal that. And, it's just, hey, what's the one win we can get in this week? What's the one small win we can have this week? And go back to the time and attention mastery podcast and implement some of those principles as you start implementing this stuff into your business. That's why it's there.
Yeah. and really not to get too tangential on this topic, because we have some really important stuff to talk about today regarding the front desk coordinator, the PCC, right? The patient care coordinator. What I especially found this last week is there's some work that I'm needing to get done. And I have a weekly meetup call with my mastermind group through PPS. And we commit to doing one thing each week that we're going to hold ourselves to and report on the next week in our weekly calls. And I found myself, because that call was coming up and I had committed to doing that certain thing, I found myself making sure it got done before the next call. And if that commitment hadn't been there from the week before, I know I would have just blown it off. And so as we're doing this, I would just say there's a power in the networking. If you have an accountability partner, a coach, you name it, that is huge for pushing these big rocks, or even the small rocks, up the hill to get to where you want to go. So I think everybody needs that kind of accountability to be held to.
Agreed.
Yeah. So let's get to it. Part 6, right? Yeah, part 6, patient care coordinator. Like you always say, bring out your piece of paper, right up at the top. Part 6 of the private practice manual series is patient care coordinator. Put that up at the top. And so thinking about the patient care coordinator, I shared this with you before we push record, but this person, so valuable. I've lost lots of money through them and I've made lots of money through them. They are the face of the clinic. They are the first person that is seen, the last person that is seen for that patient as they're coming in and out of the clinic. Vital that experience between patient and that person at the front desk is positive, and they hold a lot of keys to your success.
Yeah, man, they're the face of the company. Face of the company, like
On the phone, in
the phone, the
person.
emails, the scheduling, the collecting the money. I mean, there's just so much, such an important relationship. So much that it's got its own little section in the manual. It's like its own section. It's like it's really really important. And the other thing that, and I don't know about you, Nathan, but my experience has been that whole position was very very foreign to me as a
Mm.
practice owner. Like I didn't know anything about like that stuff. Like I just knew how to be a PT, right? And so like I found myself like just kind of like, hey, can you just get that done for me? Kind of thing. Kind of like she would just kind of like, when I say she, I mean she as my PCC would just be like kind of like all the stuff I didn't want to do, I would just give to her. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't really understand like what her role was and how to utilize that position effectively and how to create some synergies between that front desk and the back end of the practice too.
Yeah, the initial owner of the clinic, me back in the day, was like, I just need someone to answer phones. Can you
Yeah.
just answer that? And just assuming they knew what to say and that they were positive and they came across well and that they had the best interest of the company in mind and were actually trying to get people on the schedule instead of taking all the excuses and saying, okay, we'll just cancel that. It took a long time, many years, maybe over a decade before I finally figured out, oh, I need to kind of train them and tell them what to do and not
Mhm.
just assume that they know what to do. Right.
Mhm.
And it's a lot more than just answering the phone.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. A lot of money going in and out of that place too.
Oh, so much, so much. So, right off the top, very top of the sheet, underneath patient care coordinator on your blank sheet, start with avatar.
Yeah, I like
Like,
it.
who is this person that who is the golden child? Like,
Mm.
what would you say? What is that avatar to you in your clinic?
Yeah. So I would say in my practice, I'll preface this by saying my practice, but I'll also say that it's probably pretty typical in most clinics. You kind of want that person who is a social butterfly, right?
People got to be a people person.
They almost could be a marketer. You know what I mean? They
Mhm.
almost could be a good marketing person,
Totally.
right?
Yep. Yep.
They have a lot of relationships in the community. They're active in the church. They maybe have a couple kids. They're in the high school. They're there. They have some influence in some of the community groups and the community clubs. They're very, very social.
And they've
Uh,
and they've got some exposure to physical therapy. Ideally, my opinion is they've had some positive exposure to physical therapy and recognize the benefits of it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Not only that, they have some really valuable relationships with people in the community, right? Other business owners. So like that's important. If you can kind of picture, it's like they could almost be a marketer, right?
Yeah.
That's the type of person I'm looking for.
Yeah. And when we're talking about avatar, we're talking about the ideal picture of what that person is like. And maybe they don't check all the boxes, but if we're going to look for ideals, let's start from the very top and like set our sights on the very ideal person. And as we're making this avatar, um, yeah, they've got some grown kids, they've got some exposure to physical therapy, they're a people person. As we're doing those working interviews, one of those things is we're going to ask that person that we're interviewing, who might be a potential patient care coordinator, to make some phone calls. They
Mm,
better not be afraid of getting on the phone at any given time and like talking to a stranger and be very comfortable in that space. And to the same degree, they've got to be very comfortable, even more comfortable asking for money, right? You cannot have them hemming and hawing and being like, oh, I'm so sorry that I have to collect this from you. My best patient coordinators um, were like, no, this is what you owe. This is your plan. It's not my plan. This is what you chose or what you got at your work. And we do the work, so we deserve the money. So,
mhm.
they almost have a little bit of a bulldogish mentality as far as collections.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say more, like bigger than just collections, like just life, you
Yeah.
know?
Mhm.
Like when in the interview, like you really want that person who comes in and kind of owns the room.
Oh yeah.
Maybe a little bossy, but not like demanding, not like in an aggressive way, but just kind of like, hey, welcome to the show.
Like motherly.
Right? Like, hey, I'm gonna take care of this. Like, hey, this is no, I got you. Like,
Don't
I don't
worry
need
about it.
direction. Like, I'm gonna take care of this. Like, I'm in
Yep.
charge here.
Yeah.
Right. And so asking for money, making sure people are getting rescheduled when they don't really want to.
Oh yeah. Like not afraid to say, listen, you can't cancel. That's not good for you.
Yeah. Not on my schedule. This is my
Yeah.
schedule.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Listen, you need to be coming in 3 times a week. You can't just cancel and show up once this week and think you're going to get better and
Mhm.
be able to say it like that in a
Right.
very motherly, like
Right.
jovial way and talk to them like you guys, you need this.
Hmm. The other thing that I like to look at is somebody who can keep those spoiled brat clinicians in check too.
Not afraid
Right.
to talk to them. Yeah.
Hey, you're going to see 50 this week. And I'm scheduling 60 to you.
Hmm.
And you know, like you're doing this, right?
Hmm.
Um, somebody who owns that front office. This is my schedule. This is my office. This is my domain, and I'm going to take control of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
How do you find that kind of person?
So, um, my favorite place to buy clothes is Buckle. You ever been to that clothing store?
Yeah. Yeah. My wife loves it.
I love Buckle, man.
Yeah.
Right. And when you go there, those people are there. They're like salesmen
That's a different experience. I will admit.
right?
Yeah. I
Like,
know
hey,
exactly
Mr.
what you're
Shields, come on here. You want to hold? Oh, if you're going up to the sunglasses case and you're kind of just peeking in the sunglasses. They're like, oh, hey, you want? They're opening the case for you. They're here, put these on. Like they're
yeah.
very sales oriented people,
Yeah.
right?
And very nice about it. Like,
And very nice, very nice, right? And so
mhm.
like they have a commission based mindset,
Mhm.
right? And so I like to recruit inside Buckle for my front desk people.
Wait, you're
I,
kidding. You're stealing from Buckle. Like,
maybe not necessarily, but like if I see people, I'm like, hey, what are you?
what do
You
you
want a new
do?
job? You know what I mean? Like, right. But
Yeah.
like, that's the type of mentality. And if you haven't been to Buckle, go to Buckle this weekend and you can find out really quick what you're looking at. Or another thing is a really, really good waiter or waitress,
Hmm.
somebody who's like, this is my table. Everybody here is going to get served at a high level and I'm going to earn my commission at this table. So those are the two places that I see. It's like, hey, that's the type of person I want working the front desk.
We've actually, I not for the patient care coordinator position, but we have recruited people from. There was someone who really stood out at an Arby's that
Yeah.
was right next to our clinic, and there was another person that really stood out at the Subway that was near our clinic. These weren't your traditional teenager, like what do you want type of employees. They really stood
Mm-hmm.
out. So I
Mm-hmm.
know what you're talking about.
Yeah, if you want to, it's like I want to tip this person. I really enjoy my time here.
Yeah. You made
You
this a
know?
different experience.
Yeah. And here's the thing: none of that has to anything to do with CPT codes or medical office
Experience.
experience, authorizations.
Mm.
Don't care. All that stuff can be trained.
Mm,
All that stuff can be trained or delegated to somebody overseas.
yeah.
It's
Another
the
way that
second.
we've found people is just networking through patients. I don't think we ever hired a past patient. Maybe we did, but we were kind of leery of hiring past patients unless they'd been discharged quite a while ago. Um, but networking, like, hey guys, talking to your team, talking to patients, this is our avatar of what we're looking for. If you know someone that's a great people person looking for some work that is would fit in our practice, everyone knows the culture. They've been to your clinic. They know the culture. They know the type of people that fit in there. Like, is there anyone out there that's really motherly, that's really familial, that wants to bring everyone together and is happy when they talk to people and are able to solve problems on the fly very easily and do so in a very kind and loving manner? Where do you know anyone like that? And so another great way of finding people is to just tap into the network.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, it was
So
definitely harder to find people through the ads that we'd placed for PCC because I think I shared with us on the podcast in the past, but we used to do group interviews on a monthly basis, whether we were hiring or not. And it was to replace the technicians that we had and the patient care coordinator positions, because those are the positions that had more churn, and they were likely to give us like 1 or 2 weeks notice or just not show up. And we never wanted to be in that position ever again. So we did monthly interviews, group interviews, invited people to come. 15 people would say, yeah, I'll show up at that day and time. 7 or 8 would show up, and we'd have a group interview. You can talk to me about that some other time, but that's where we would also find PCCs, you know.
That's beautiful. I wrote that down. I might start doing that in my practice.
Yeah. It was like I won't get into the details, but that was just another way. I thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah. So it's just important to get clear. Like, personality is important in that position, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you should have a on that first bullet point is the avatar. Who do we want in here? Maybe you can write a quick story about this person, or you can bullet point some criteria that you would want to see during an interview or during a working interview or some just interactions. Mm-hmm. Stick to that, right? Because if you do that, then you've got 80 to 90% of it right. Hire the right person, and you're almost there, right?
Yeah, if you're doing that avatar exercise really well, you have an idea of what age range they're in, what kind of demographic they're coming from. You even given them a name. This is Bob. This is Sally. And the team says, hey, we're looking for the next Sally. We're looking for the next Bob. And then when you say that, everyone knows exactly what you're talking about, right? So we're looking for this next person, and all of that's encapsulated in that avatar. And yeah, what do we want to see when they come in for the working interview? What do we want to find out? What do we want to feel when we're taking them through the interview process, outside of just, do they align with our values? Like, I think that's just understood at this point. Mm-hmm. We've talked enough about that. They're going to align with the values and agree with them. But beyond that, how are we feeling? How are they acting? What kind of actions are they showing that tell us that this person would be super successful in this position?
Yep, totally, man. I think once you get that right, and then, kind of going into bullet point number 2 is we've got to get clear on, like, what exactly are the roles and responsibilities of that position?
Right.
Right. And not just for this position, but all positions in the company, having a very detailed job description. Mm-hmm. Something that outlines, like, here's the success criteria. Here's the key roles and responsibilities. Here's how we measure how well you're performing in this role. KPIs, right? And here's some of the criteria to qualify for the position.
Yeah.
So and having that documented is really, really important.
Yeah. If you take it a step further, that's all good in the job description. And I'll reference back to my conversations with Sean Miller, probably about 3 or 4 years ago on the podcast, where we talked about building out he called it a playbook, right? So if you have a position on a team in sports, there's a playbook of all the plays. This is how we run our offense. This is how we run our defense. And so he would create a playbook for each position in the company. And the first part of that was the job description. Mm-hmm. And then the second part of that was, here's how you answer the phone. Here's how you collect money. Here's how you bring in an initial evaluation person, right? So that more of the detail gets laid into the playbook. But start with the job description first. Like, what do you want to see? What are their key roles and responsibilities and their KPIs, like you said? Then you can start building out the playbook after that.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, having that job description is clear, because I made the mistake in the beginning of not being clear on what the responsibility was.
Totally.
And it's a huge underutilization of a really big asset, one of the most important assets you have in the company. And so they're not really there to do authorizations. They do that, but that's not why they're there, right? They're not there to do authorizations or to, like, run reports or to
verify insurance
and that stuff, right? What they're really there to do is keep the schedule slammed.
Number 1.
Full. like not a gap in the schedule. That's their primary product. And then I think a secondary product would be collecting over the counter collections, making
Yeah,
sure
like
everybody's scheduled
one
in
beat.
every time slot. And then number two, collecting every single thing over the counter 100% of the
Right.
time.
Yeah. Because I think I would be interested if I could go back in time and ask my previous patient care coordinators, what do you think your main job is? You're like, nail it, bring it all down, filter it all down to one thing. What is your main responsibility? I wonder what they would say. I don't think they would. And, if those who are listening, it might be a good exercise. Like, talk to your front desk person, your patient care coordinator, and say, what is your main job? If you did nothing else, what is the one thing that you have to do this job well? And I'd be interested to hear what they say. But you and I have had enough experience that will tell you what they should say, and that is keep the schedule full, get patients to come in when they're supposed to come in all the time, and pay for their services every time they come across the clinic.
That's it.
That's
So
it.
that should probably be documented pretty clearly on the job description,
Right.
right?
Right.
This is what you do here.
These are your, yeah, this is your job. Do
Right?
this.
Like,
Everything
don't
else is
sugarcoat it.
accessory to
Be
it.
very clear. Like, this is what you do here, right?
Mhm.
Keep full. And it's, and going back to the avatar, that's why having a sales mentality is so important in that front desk, because it's a sales position.
Yeah.
You're selling people on their arrival. You're selling people on the retention. You're
On the
selling people
services.
on the services.
Those initial phone calls from patients who are like, hey, I got a referral, or hey, do you take my insurance? I mean, sales mode's got to kick in right then.
Right. Hey, this is what we're going to provide for you. This is what we need from you. And this is what it's going to cost. And we need to collect that. Right.
Mhm.
That's what it's a sales position.
Right. Yeah. I highly recommend, and I've had D Bills of Front Office Guru on the podcast at least 3, 4, 5 times over the last number of years. And we've talked about very specific aspects of this patient care coordinator position. And I highly recommend you go back and listen to those. Um, she also will do a free consult for you. Just let her know that you came to her through Nathan and Adam of the Physical Therapy Owners Club, because she'll talk to you about what she's able to do to help you out in this regard as well.
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to Dee. I worked with Dee for about 7 months, and she really helped transform that front desk and build out that role. And now we've built it out and scaled it across 3 clinics, and it's great. Really good job.
Yeah, and speaking of job description, the cool thing about what you said and relating it back to the avatar, what we get from the avatar goes back to what is most important in the job description. I mean, they kind of play off of each other. We say all these things about what the avatar is. Well, we know what the avatar is because we know what a successful person is who really lives out that job description to a T, right?
And they do it because it's fun.
Oh, they love it.
Not because they have to necessarily be trained on it, right? And there is some training, but it's like it's their natural instinct. They get a lot of energy from communicating and holding people accountable and taking care of people. It's what they do naturally.
Yeah.
So it's just like,
these people tend to, as we were talking about the avatar, these people tend to decide to go a certain direction because it's natural to them. And occasionally you have to turn them a little bit. You have to train them because they're like, and they're okay with it typically. Or they're like, hey, I know you're doing it this way. I just wanted to tell you this is how we do it. And like, oh, if that's how you, oh, sure. Yeah, I would be happy to do it that way. Right. Is that what you found as well? They tend to maybe overstep their bounds a little bit and need a little correction sometimes, but you're kind of okay with it. You're like, oh, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, you you have a really good front desk person whenever your therapists are coming up to you saying, man, they're freaking slamming me. Right? That front desk is slamming my schedule, man. Like, God, oh, Angel up there, she just doesn't let up. It's like, and she's not going to let up either, right? It's like, that's when you know.
You just sit back and smile.
That's right. That's exactly what and I'm not taking the foot off the gas, right? Right. It's your job is not necessarily to take your foot off the gas. Your job is to figure out how to solve the problems that come from that. Right.
Yeah.
Chaos and double, all those things, like solve those problems, keep the schedule full.
Yeah, for those of you who are listening, especially if you're newer or older PT owners, you might be thinking, and this was me, it was like, what does a job description even look like? Like, how do I start from scratch? But we have something, you have something that you'd be willing to offer, right? To give them some
Yeah,
guidance.
I do. We just feel like throwing out bones today. Here's the criteria. Number one, you have to join the Facebook group. If you're not on Facebook, just appease me and join the Facebook group. It's Private Practice Owners Club. Join that Facebook group. Find me. My name is Adam Robin, and shoot me a DM and just let me know, like, hey, I'd love to get a copy of that PCC job description,
Mhm.
and I'll send it over to you.
Right.
You can take that, you can use it, you can copy it and paste it right into your practice, right into your owner's manual, or you can, maybe put your logo on the top, change up a few words, and now you have
Sure.
a perfectly documented job description that you can use for the rest of your practice's history.
And the beauty of that, and it's so valuable, is it's not just the PCC job description, but you can use that structure for all your other positions, your other
Correct.
4 or 5 positions that you have in your company. So if you are really starting from scratch and don't know where to start as you're building out a job description for any position, use this one and then build the others out. And if Adam is so inclined to be so generous, he might even share some of those with you as well. But he might ask a little bit more.
Yeah, I might have to get an email address or something from you. You got to give me something.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So that there is some value in that, because that's where I was. I was like, where do I even start? Yeah, what is this, just like 1A, 1B, and am I covering everything? This will give you that comprehensively, at least for the PCC position.
That's right. That's right.
But at the top of that job description, one of the first things you're going to talk about is KPIs. Not the first thing, because we're going to talk about your purpose and your responsibilities, and but soon somewhere in there, third, fourth thing is going to be the statistics by which we measure your success and the key performance indicators, the KPIs that are most important to this position, right?
Yeah.
So speaking of that, we talked about avatar, build out a job description, what's most important. Now, third thing on your list as you're taking notes is, okay, what are some of the KPIs and where would you start them off?
I would tell you that there are 6 primary KPIs for the front desk. And I'm just going to give them to you. How about that? I'll just give them to you. So this is section C of the patient care coordinator section of your manual. And so this section is called key performance indicators for the front desk role, for the PCC role. There are 6 key performance indicators. Number 1 is an indicator that is a metric that that all positions share in my company. And it's going to be total visits. Total visits, right? We want to make sure that position is very focused on how do I increase the volume inside this practice, right? And so not only, like, everybody has a little role to play with that metric. So what are some of the things that they need to do to increase the total visits? Get them scheduled, make sure get them rescheduled, right? Get the evals to come in, right? All the things that are important to that role. So
get
total
the evals
visits
to schedule out the full plan of care at the first visit.
Just get visits on the calendar. Get them on the calendar.
People to come in 3 times a week versus 1 time a week, like
That's
they're
right.
supposed to, per plan of care. Yeah, all that stuff. Don't
That's
let
right.
them reschedule, or don't let them cancel, reschedule within the same week. These are all parts of that first one to get visits up, right?
That's right. Even better, if you're a savvy owner, maybe they have an indication of what your break-even number is for the week. And it's like, hey, we don't go below this number.
Right.
Right. And so it's important to let them have that internal temperature gauge week by week so that they can channel their efforts accordingly.
Yeah. That they know if we're getting anywhere near this number, then red
we have a problem.
should be going
right.
off. Right.
Right.
Yeah. You want to know where they stand on the scoreboard, right? It's one thing to just keep pushing the number up, but whatever that number is that a good number?
Right.
Like, I remember that was a light bulb moment for me. I told the provider one time, dude, we're going to be, I'll pick a number. We're going to be at 125 visits this next week, which was super low for us. And she looked at me deer in the headlights. And this is someone who had double-digit years of experience in the PT industry. And she looked at me like, what does that mean?
Good or bad?
It means I'm losing money. She didn't ask that, but her eyes told me that. And that means we're losing money.
Sucks.
And I'm about to have a heart attack. So, yeah, so letting your team know this is where we need to hit in order to be happy that we're making
Mhm.
things are good. You can keep your jobs and I can make a profit and we can keep this place open. Yeah, that's important. And part of this, and hopefully I'm not jumping too far ahead. Utilization, is that underneath this first
Yeah.
KPI or is that a
Yeah.
separate KPI?
No, same. I don't necessarily think in order of importance. I think they're all important, but yeah, schedule utilization. Is that what you're talking about, or is it?
Yeah, so 200, maybe there's 200 slots for all the providers to fill during the course of a week if they do their normal schedule. What percentage of those are filled?
Correct.
That's utilization, and I think that's a huge one. That a lot of owners, I know I didn't measure it and track it, but in talking to Eric Miller in the past, your greatest loss, your greatest financial loss comes from the visits that you're not seeing. So if all your clinicians added together could see 200 visits in a week and you're at 150, you're at 75% utilization, and that's not good. I mean,
Right.
there's 25% of that is missing, and you're missing that financial capacity to be fulfilled. So, yeah, we want that number ideally to be mid 80s and above all the time.
All the time. That's right. That's when you know you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
I think that one that's coupled with that would be the arrival rate.
Sure.
Right. So you have 200 visits scheduled, and arrival rate, schedule utilization, maybe they're both what and what, but there's some slight differences there. But the important thing is like, how well are we communicating the value of what we do, and how well are we holding people accountable to making sure they're keeping their appointments? Right. Because when they show up, everybody wins. Patient gets better, clinic makes more money, everybody wins. Right. So we want to make you like our metric is 90% or above.
Wow.
Right. 90% arrival rates every single week.
Oh, arrival rate. Yes. That's
arrival
perfect.
rate. Right.
I would say industry average is much lower than that, but
yeah.
90% for the successful clinics I know out there, it's 90% above all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Going on to the next one, I would say over the counter collection percentage. We beat that metric to death.
Have to
over the last year, but are you okay? Everybody thinks they're collecting well over the counter. Yeah, we're collecting everything. Are you?
If they say no, then that's like self-implying that I'm doing a really bad job. Everyone thinks they're doing well because they haven't looked under the hood. That's
right.
Why.
It's kind of like driving down the road without a speed like a speedometer, right? Like not knowing how fast. It's like, yeah, I'm going the speed limit. Are you really like, are you really like, do you know that?
If I don't look down, I'll never know.
Right. It's like, it's important. So, you're having this daily metric of what were we projected to collect over the counter versus what did we collect?
Right.
Right. So if there's $1,000 that should be collected, you should collect $1,000, not 920. Right. Because you're not getting that 80 back ever.
And you got to make sure
back.
Yeah. This includes not just the co-pays for each visit, but it also includes collecting for projected co-insurances. If they've got an 80-20 plan, you collect the 20%, the projected 20% at the time of visit. And that's really easy. People try to make, well, every visit's different. Yada, yada. Yeah, it is. But on average, you collect what? Let's just say your average reimbursement per visit is $100, just to use a nice round number. And they're on an 80-20 plan. I'm going to tell my patient care coordinator that you need to collect $20 at every visit, no matter what, right? As long as their deductible's not been met and all that kind of stuff. You're collecting co-pays, you're collecting their co-insurances, and you're collecting their deductibles for each visit. Again, it's not hard. If they have a $5,000 deductible that hasn't been met and your average reimbursement rate is $100 a visit, then you collect that $100 on each visit. And if it's a little bit more for your initial evaluations, then just say we collect $125 for initial evaluations and $100 for every subsequent visit. Just keep it simple so it's even across the board. Don't have to do a lot of math and calculations at the front desk. Just do that, right? Every time. Start there at least to do something. Like I told one of my providers, like I'd rather be cutting checks than chasing balances.
Right.
Any day of the week.
Mhm.
right? And if you do this one thing, like if you focused on this one thing out of this particular episode and really focused on, and you said it, daily reconciliations, daily accountability with a daily tracking sheet of what was supposed to be collected and what was collected, and that's turned in every day and reconciled against the schedule and the credit card receipt and receipts and the checks and the cash, all reconciled every day. You do that one thing, really make that so tight, your revenues will immediately go up 5 to 10%.
Easily.
I can pretty much guarantee your revenues will go up 5 to 10% if you're not already doing that.
Easily.
Easy. And that's
Easily.
that's with no additional visits. That's no more marketing. That's no more ad spend on social media. You name it. If you want a 5 to 10% increase in your revenues right now, you do that one thing, and goes straight to your bottom line, right into your pocket.
That's why I feel so confident about what we do and how we help people. It's like, it's so easy to help owners find 10, 15, 20% more margin in their practice just by improving the operations. And that's just one financial touch point. There's many more. So, yeah, it's a really important piece, especially with declining reimbursements. Like, you have to collect over the counter collections. At the end of the day, what we want to do is give you the control, the owner, the control over the outcome. And you can't have control if you're not taking control. So measuring that daily. The last two metrics.
Oh, I thought we only covered two. Were there two that I missed?
So we did total visits. We did schedule utilization.
Utilization, okay.
Right. We did arrival rate.
Arrival rate, good.
We did over the counter collections.
Got it. I'm on board with you.
So now there's two more, and they're both around new patients. New patients are the lifeblood of any practice, assuming that the operations are set, right? Assuming the operations are sound, you will grow to the degree in which you can attract and retain new patients into your practice, right? There's two things that are important. Number one, how many of these referrals that are sitting there on the counter are we transferring into scheduled new patients? Conversions, right? They come in on the fax machine as a piece of paper, and they convert to a scheduled initial evaluation. And in order to do that, there's a phone call, right? You have to reach out to the new patient. You have to talk to them. You have to find out what their problem is. You have to get some demographic information. You have to sell them on the idea that maybe what we do can help them. And you have to get them to agree to book an appointment with us. That's a sales process that happens on that first phone call. So
is that a separate spreadsheet that they have to track, that conversion process? Like, here's the referral. Is that something that your team has to fill in? I mean, a lot of these things aren't tracked on EMRs, and I have been out of the EMR industry for a while because I don't have clinics for some time, but I don't think EMRs are to the point where the potential new client and the scheduled new client is being tracked via the EMR to show that conversion rate. Neither is the daily transactions of over-the-counter collections. Has your EMR gotten that far, or are these separate spreadsheets that you have to build out for your PCCs?
So my understanding is that over the counter, they're doing a good job, a much better job at over the counter collections.
The EMRs?
The EMRs are tracking that.
They can say, hey, on Tuesday, these are the projected collections and this is what you got. And they might be able to run a report. Okay. Good.
Yep. And you can get a spit out a percentage. Any good EMR should be able to either have that already in there or can custom build that for you. I haven't found any EMR that's doing a good job with referral management, but I do know that there are softwares out there that are maybe a little bit detached from your EMR that do this.
Like a CRM of some kind?
CRM or something like that. But in our practice, no. We have a spreadsheet, right?
Sure.
Every time a referral comes in, they have to mark it down as a referral coming in. And every time a patient gets scheduled, they have to
check the box,
right? And then that has to be consolidated at the end of the day, right? Here's the number. Here's the number. There should be 5 left over. Here are the 5, right? So you just do the math.
Okay. That's a daily reconciliation as well.
Daily reconciliation of all referrals.
Okay. Got it.
Right. So referral conversion is a big piece. Again, 90% or above. 9 out of 10 referrals are getting booked. Okay. Last KPI. And you know what's really cool? When I see an initial evaluation scheduled on my calendar. You know what's even cooler? when they show up.
Yeah.
When they actually show up for their appointment, right? How much is the national average of a plan of care? How much is a plan of care worth?
I'd say $900 to $1,000.
$1,000. If they don't show up, you just lost $1,000.
Right.
Minimum. You just lost $1,000. It just costed you $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have 5 evals that don't show up this week, you just lost $5,000
right.
in your practice. Big lever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we measure new patient arrival rate.
Separate from the overall.
Separate from the overall arrival rate.
Got it.
What percentage of the new patients are arriving? Because these are people who don't already know, like, and trust you. They haven't been educated, right? So it's a brand new orientation, a brand new education process that has to take place in order to get that arrival, which takes energy and effort and intention.
And sales.
That's unlike just a traditional follow-up.
Right.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
So it needs to be measured as such, right? So the new patient arrival rate is the last one. And you guessed it, 90% or above.
Got it. That would be, that's a pretty amazing job description right there. If you're taking notes and that's what you have on your list of today, those 6 KPIs, job description, and in parentheses, contact Adam to get it, and an avatar. I think that'd be huge. Notice in those 6 KPIs, we said nothing about authorizations, verifications, what else? A number of other things that people answering the phones, that kind of stuff, ordering materials. None of that is high on the list whatsoever. So focusing them on these things and taking those other things off their plate would be huge if you can, and allow them to focus on that. And if they are able to focus on these things, then your practice will be transformed. If it has transformed.
And that person will be worth anything they ask. If they want $40 an hour, they'll be worth it.
There are people out there that are worth it.
If they're dialed in like that, you can have an amazing professional at the helm of that ship who's, man, got it dialed in.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Bend over backwards for those people.
That's right. So, it's pretty simple. You have your practice owner's manual at the top. You've described your avatar. You're going to build some recruiting and onboarding and orientation around the type of person you're looking for. Get clear on that. Number 2, build out a job description. Join the Facebook group, DM me, I'll give you mine. And then number 3, building out a system of tracking the performance of that role via the 6 KPIs: total visits, arrival rate, referral conversions, new patient arrival rate, over-the-counter collection, and schedule utilization. You do that, that equals happy owner, happy patients, money in the bank. Everybody's winning.
As it pertains to this particular topic, if you want to delve deeper, you're having issues, number 1, the first thing I'd recommend you do is reach out to D Bills at Front Office Guru. And I think it's frontofficeguru.com. It's rather simple. Or if you punch it into Google, you should be able to find it pretty quickly and get a free consult with her. Also, other homework you could do. There's, like I said, 3 or 4 podcast episodes that I've done with D. Listen to those. Huge information, value bombs. We go deeper into some of these specific KPIs that you're talking about and the avatar and personality types and you name it, quite a bit. So there is plenty to digest regarding the PCC, especially if you're looking at a new one, thinking about adding a new one, or having questions about your current one. Those could be huge for your practice.
Absolutely, man.
Cool. Awesome, man. Well, just as a teaser, next one we're going to be talking about is financial mastery.
Oh, yay.
There's one of the 2 of us that likes talking about money. I'm looking forward to that one.
Heck yeah, I can't wait.
So that's the next step of the private practice manual series that we're bringing to you. That'll be part number 7. And then if you have any questions, reach out to me, Nathan at ptoclub.com, Adam at ptoclub.com, and we're happy to help you out and also do any kind of consults with you if you so wish. Anything else you want to share, Adam?
I would just like to share that if you're listening, I would love to see you win. And if there's any support you need, reach out. I'd love to help.
Awesome. Thanks, dude.
All right, brother. Peace out.